heart and soul. Now trouble with emotions, knowing what to say. Seconds turn to hours, hours turn to days. Tears upon a pillow, but my heart is filled with pain. The love is starting over, will never be the same. Now I'm all alone with a broken heart. Give you everything right from the start. Heart and soul. Girl, you need to know how you tore my world apart. Didn't give enough. Heart and soul. Staring out your window as the rain turns to snow, like a rose in the water, hasn't left the road. Like seasons always changing, you couldn't stand the test of time. Like a rhyme without a reason, made you change your mind. Now I'm all alone with a broken heart. Give you everything right from the start. Girl, you need to know how you tore my world apart. Didn't give enough. Heart and now I'm all alone with a broken heart. Give you everything right from the start. Girl, you need to know so you tore my world apart.
How about I turn the mic on? Welcome back. It's Thursday night. Thursdays with Phil and Victor, or the Yankee and Victor. Don't forget about our t-shirt contest. 500 to D Live. We've got 31 to go. We're chipping away at it. Little by little. Little by little. We're getting there. So, welcome back, everybody. Remember, that t-shirt contest will feature the Wheel of Death, where you can have an opportunity at a J.J. Stoner Midget Wednesday large child size t-shirt and an additional shirt from the Winning TV store on Teespring, a Speakeasy shirt, a Promises Kept shirt with Doc on one breast, myself on the other facing inward, or a just plain old Winning TV shirt. So, spread the word around. Let's try to get to 500 so we can give away those damn t-shirts already. Welcome aboard, Victor. There's Victor up on the screen.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for having me, Phil. I can't wait to cut into the topics of tonight.
Well, I know Victor knows a lot more than I do about the Great Reset. I've read quite a bit of it now, but I'm probably far behind Victor, so I'm glad that you're on tonight, Victor, to go into some more of the detail on what's in store for us if Joe Biden is installed.
Well, it's not just Joe Biden. I mean, these guys pretty much cling on to any tragedy and jump on it. So they're exploitative assholes, with Biden or not. Even Trump is going to have issues with them. So.
Agreed. If it's not Trump in office, though, I think it is a free hand at implementing it in the U.S. Would you agree?
Well, they're going to have a field day with Biden, though, because Kamala, she's not a VP in any sort of the term, to be honest, because she's basically AOC, a bit more calm, a bit more maniacal, and she's not going to pull any punches on calling her president or even supporting her president. She's just there for the cash grab. And Biden, let's be honest, he's a puppet. That's all he is.
Hey, you subscribed. Does it feel good?
Oh, Boca Bradley, thank you for the sub. Yeah, I think Kamala is a little more conniving than AOC and doesn't outright act like a fool for the camera. That's for sure.
Well, if you have seen her public displays, she still pulls out a full card pretty often, to be honest.
Yeah, yes, she does. But the dancing thing, the fake laugh thing, AOC comes out and just blathers a bunch of things that people go, huh? You know, what, are you crazy? You know, Kamala hides it a little bit better about their plans. For us, at least.
Well, yeah, but that's the difference between AOC and Kamala. AOC is literally power-hungry personified, and she's having a field day. Even if she was the janitor of a company, she would have a field day. Let's be honest. You don't put the cup over here; you put the cup over there.
Yeah, I imagine when she was a bartender, she probably drove people crazy.
She was a bartender?
AOC was,
Who the hell
yes.
tipped her?
Yeah. You've got too much scotch in your drink. That's not fair to the people who don't have scotch. Yeah, I imagine she went into politics because she wasn't making a lot of tip money at bartending. So, without further ado, by the way, Kitty B is in the chat. Thank you, Kitty B, for sending me some links. We're going to try to get into some of that stuff, too, because I think it, and we were discussing this before we went live, Victor and I, that some of this opportunity, if you will, with COVID, the riots, BLM, Antifa, especially in America, is being used as an opportunity by the IMF and the WEF to get the U.S. into the Great Reset. If you go to their site, they speak of these things: civil unrest, pandemics. You know, they actually come out and say a pandemic is a great opportunity to reimagine the world. So, we do have some things about that Kitty sent us. So,
and let's not forget, these guys run the UN, formerly known as the World's League. So.
Right. Well, if you look at the Great Reset and their plan, and we went through that on Tuesday, quite a bit of it. If you look at the UN's 2030 agenda.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
Thank you, Kitty B, for the ice cream. If you look at the UN's 2030 agenda, is it not a carbon copy of the Great Reset?
Well, exactly, and that's the whole thing. They've been pushing it through the European Union. Thank you, UK. Because that's the whole thing. The main problem with all these things is they've had these agendas points where they're going to bleed the economy. And what better is the illusion of the environmentalism? Because let's go with the whole green thing. Anyone who has seen a green solution like solar panel, the only green solution actually viable are water energy and wind energy. Solar energy is very pollutant. Not on the short term, but in the long term, due to the solar panels. Same with electric cars. Long term, after 5 years, you're gonna have to toss out the battery, and you can't recycle that battery.
And the solar panels, they contain deadly chemicals.
Yeah, they're basically they're solenoids. Solenoids are chemical processes, just like the chemical processes in batteries. They go dead after a while. Solar panels, if you buy them new, the power rendement you get out of it after 20 years, they barely give 15% power after 20 years. That's why you have subsidies that will go up to 5 to 10 years, because after that it doesn't matter anymore.
Right. I've heard of solar panels dying out after 10 years as well.
People say they die out because they don't produce more than 50% of power. But after 20 years, they are actually dead, because they won't generate any more power, because any power that some solenoids will generate will get basically get buffered and loaded up in the dead diodes in the solar panel. So it's going to basically heat up the whole thing. That's where the power is going to end up.
And we are already seeing problems with disposal of solar panels. That landfills, you can't bury them, right?
You can bury them, but it's like oil products and plastic products. They have to be buried in special ones, because they'll liquefy and start to seep into the ground soil, polluting the groundwater, you name it.
Unless we do what they did in Canada and send them all to Indonesia, the Philippines or Indonesia or something.
Yeah, or do what we Dutch do. We just incinerate it and then blame the pollution on other companies.
Getting into that Great Reset, and some people are buying into it, or believe it or not, already on Twitter. The blue checks, of course, are pumping it up little by little. You can see drips and drabs out there. The big problem with the Great Reset is that we all become slaves of the state, with the exception of a certain group of people, which would be the elite, right?
This is the irony of the system. Everyone becomes slave of the state. Because even at the top, you'll have a pecking order. It's your basic feudalism, like kingdoms and whatnot. You can be king, but how long will you be king? Because someone is going to stab you in the back at some point.
Exactly. Well, you'll still have a select group of people in each quote-unquote country, because you really won't be a country any longer. You won't have borders, right? They're going to get rid of borders for everybody.
For the people who don't understand how the system goes, you'll have lesser nobles, you'll have barons, you have lords, you'll have kings. It's the whole... basically the whole feudal system gets revamped. That's why a lot of royalties are heavily invested into this and heavily funding this, because they're going to get back into power, and that's what they want.
In the U.S., we don't have royalty, but we do have politicians, right?
Yeah, so this is going to become an economic royalty. This is it's using the template of the feudal empires, but now it's the big corporations that will get those titles. It's
So
basically potato, you know.
so there'll be select politicians in the U.S. at least. There'll be select politicians, and there will be select CEOs like a Zuckerberg, a Bezos, or somebody like that,
Oh, yeah,
for instance, will be in
but
charge.
if you look at Boca Bradley's comment, they will tax at home workers. They're
Mhm.
already talking about people who are at home. They use up less resources, but we should tax them more because they use up more power. They use up more water. They use up more heat. You name it.
I get it. It makes sense. And we were kind of trying to go back and forth in the chat on Tuesday. As far as owning property, they are going to hit you with so many taxes. Eventually, it won't be worth it to own property, right?
Well, yeah, but they've already tried to do it with the Dutch farmers over here. We got a nitrous oxide tax, and that's currently they've been trying to place on the farmers just to tax them out of oblivion, because methane and cows produce so much pollutants. We got to get rid of all of them. And during the corona crisis, we already killed the whole ferret breeding system for furs and whatnot, because ferrets were COVID spreaders, stuff like that.
I wish I had grabbed it, but I did see an article where they claimed that COVID was on meat. Now, so that is a way to get rid of meat, right? For their green agenda.
Well, if you take over here in the Netherlands, for instance, we had the meat industry suing the non-meat industry because the non-meat industry, they used to have their own vegetarian section, but no one went there. That was basically the ghost town of the supermarket. So they placed them strategically within the meat. So people would, if they weren't paying attention, they would buy vegetarian meat, then go back to the store going, I don't need this. So they got sued, and now they're back into the ghost town.
And it's a ghost town over there because the free market, at least here in the U.S., the free market dictates to the supermarket, if you've got 100 square feet of store space dedicated to vegetarian products and you're not selling them, that space gets reduced. But under their plan, that space would be expanded, right?
Well, yeah. Well, exactly, and it's going to be heavily subsidized, as it currently already is. Uh, since the nitrous oxide tax didn't work, I can show you videos on how the farmers handled that. It basically meant the entire country was on gridlock. But now they're going with the agenda. We need to clear out 2/3 of all farmers for housing, because
Mm.
we're having a housing crisis. There is no housing crisis. That's the whole irony. But for some odd reason, the farmland needs to become housing, low and cheap housing, and that's going to probably become social renting housing.
Yep.
So there's going to be a rent control on it. We already have projects where the social renting houses only has solar panels and wind power and what's it called? H2. Dang it. I gotta look up the name for it. It's H3O. You know what you make from water. They
Yep.
already have those plants inside the social housing, which means you're obligated to pay for it through your rent, and then you have to find some power company that will refund you that. Now, take a guess which power companies are going to be doing that. The ones they pick.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
And before you know it, those companies will stop paying it back, and then you're screwed. Because then you'll get taxed out of oblivion, which is kind of the whole idea about it.
Kitty B right up with the links as usual. I'm going to open up the one about the farmers. She gave the Dutch reaction. Kitty B is awesome with the links, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, she already saw that on my show where I
Yeah.
showcased how the Dutch farmers did protest during the 2019 farming crisis. And let's just say we Dutch stand together with the farmers, unlike in America, which is a sad thing. Because
Yes.
without farmers, you don't get to eat.
That's right. You touched on the housing issue a little bit, but it is in the Great Reset and in the UN Agenda 2030. You can find a more definitive answer in the 2030 agenda for the UN, where they want to eliminate any single family housing going forward and eventually eliminate all single family housing and turn it into multi-family housing projects, if you will, government-owned housing.
Well, you're right. They're going to turn it into the projects. Just look at Great Britain is a great model for how social housing is a disaster. Because currently, if you look at the home ownerships, pretty much 2 or 3 people in the entire of UK own pretty much 2/3 of the UK when it comes to the homeowners, and they rent them out again at exuberant prices, and they don't maintain them whatsoever.
Oh, sorry, Victor. Hold on 1 second here. The YouTube channel, for some reason, is reacting super slow. It's not my internet, but it's just YouTube that's doing this. But, yeah, it's just, Obama had a plan, and it falls along the same lines, where Trump, during the campaign, said they're going to destroy your suburbs, and that is part of the plan, is to drag out people from the inner cities and build these housing projects in the suburbs, basically take over, like you said, farmland, and turn it into projects.
Well, yeah, but that's how the suburbs came to be. They were designed to pull people out of the city, because then that way you could consolidate your power inside the city.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, if you look at any suburb in America, the power of the suburb versus the city is absurd. The power creep between those two.
So you mean the power used by the suburbs versus the city?
Yeah, because the suburbs literally have zero power, zero influence compared to the city.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Like, for instance, political power.
Well, yeah, but that's what other kind of power is there?
Well, that's the
That's
reason.
the thing.
Well, that's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College in America.
Well, yeah, but that's the entire idea. Because the main problem was within the city, people own stuff. So how do you get those homeowners out of the city? Design the suburbs so people went out of the city that could own stuff. Now everyone in the city owns nothing. Even small mom and pop shops who think they own their shops, they don't.
Right.
Because they can be closed down willy-nilly, and everyone in the cities will completely agree with it.
Right.
Because they already have been consolidated into a single power block. And when you look at the suburbs, they have zero power, zero influence, and because they're so widespread out, they are not a consolidated group. So you can just pick out whether it's race, whether it's religion, whether it's political ideology. You can divide them up in tiny little blocks and exploit them any way you see fit.
Exactly. That's why a great comparison would be what's happening with COVID now in New York State. You've got the rest of the state, which is mostly rural, with the exception of, say, Rochester and Buffalo. New York City is complying with every insane mandate that the mayor of New York City Bill de Blasio is making, and the governor. Now, the rest of the state, that's a different animal. They are trying to make the rest of the state comply, and it's a hard sell for the people that live where I do, out in the country.
Yeah, but
You know,
that's the irony. If you look at the states and pretty much the major metropolises that follow these guidelines, there are consolidated groups where people are pretty much who are any remotely against it. They don't even have to be Republican. They can be moderate Democrats. They've been relegated to the sidelines. They've been moved out to specific suburbs. You name it. And that's kind of the creepy thing about the whole scenario, because they've been doing this ever since 1868. 1908, the whole suburbia concept came into play. The American global police force came into play under Woodrow Wilson. You name it.
yeah. In the cities, they're more conditioned to accept socialism than people outside of the city, because they've got a lot of rules. I mean, if you, like you said, if you're a small shop owner in New York City, you've got regulations on top of regulations and top of regulations, and they can shut you down or fine you out of business in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can be compliant to everything, and they can still close you down.
Right.
Because you've got no rights.
Right.
And anyone in the city will just go, well, you broke the rule.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, if that happens out here, then you'll get a lot of people in the area saying that's not right, and it'll be a big story.
Well, it's not even the people, it's even the law enforcement that wouldn't even go that far, because they don't have the whole power creep where it's where the reward versus morals isn't. That one is skewed to high morals, low self gratifications. Where it's in the city, it's low morals, high self gratification. Because take any police force in a major metropolis, how do you gain in power? By towing the line. That's it. You might even get promoted faster if you go more extreme.
Exactly. Here's that video footage that Kitty B sent me on the farm protest.
Yeah, please understand, the entire country of the Netherlands is 2/3 of farmland. So that's a lot of farmers that went to the basically to the government house. It's like having all the farmers of entire America go to the White House.
It's going to get to that point because now, in case you didn't hear, the truckers will be striking on November 28th.
The truckers got nothing. That's the entire problem. In America, the monopolization has broken any sort form of unionization against the government. Look at the farming in America. It's basically 4 companies and some fringe self-owning farmers.
Right.
Those farmers, at least the most prominent ones, gonna get fired. They're gonna get laid off. They're gonna get persecuted in the media. You name it.
Out where I am, we still have quite a few independent farms, but not nearly as many as we once had. There's a lot of empty farms in my area, but there's still quite a handful of independent farmers.
Yeah, but the main problem is due to GMO cropping, for instance, where a GMO company could sue another farmer for having their crop because GMO crop works like the African killer bee and just takes over. That has happened for since the 90s until now, unabated. Because farmers, we call them poor millionaires. They have millions, but they can't use those millions because they're in farm equipment and farmland. So you can just sue the crap out of them and own their land. And any other farmer that still maintains their power base Well, we're just going to kill them with Walmart and whatnot by undercutting their prices so they are no longer financially viable. And that's kind of the major problem in America when it comes to farmers.
Yeah, yes, it is because, for instance, in New York produces a lot of milk, but it is price controlled by the government. So, they can only sell it for pennies on the gallon, if you will, and the government subsidizes the farmers not to raise the price. Now, when the government takes over all of those dairy farms, it may be a different story at that point. Because the whole plan is to pay off national debts, right? So they're just going to jack up the price of milk, and the government gets all the money, basically.
Well, exactly. But that's the entire emphasis of it. You're going to be relying to the point you can't go without those subsidies. So when they cut those subsidies, well, they can buy up your land for nothing. They tried to do that last year with the nitrous oxide taxation, where it pretty much meant your farm had to pay exorbitant taxes, and if you wanted to sell it, your farmland was already polluted with nitrous oxide, so your farmland would be worth nothing. So you couldn't even sell. You'd even sell at a loss. That's how deviant that rule came into being. And don't be surprised if they're going to try that in America, because they're pretty much testing the water globally.
And a lot of that farmland will be turned into low-income housing projects, basically. Government Section 8 or whatever you want to call it. Here we call it public housing. In Delaware, they call it Section 8. I know it's different all around the country, but that's what's gonna happen. Some of it will be turned into Section 8 housing, and they will ship out people from the inner city that will be, moved there, period. And that's what's going to happen. And as the price of your property, if you still own it and can still afford to own it, drops, they will take over those properties, knock them down, and build more Section 8 properties, right?
Well, that's the main problem. Your mortgage is based on your property price. The minute your property drops exorbitant amounts, they're going to default on your mortgage. Whether you pay on time or not, it's just going to mean your property is no longer guaranteed for the amount of loan you have. So they're going to default and take your home. And that's the cruel bit about it.
They take your home now if you don't pay your taxes, but it will be multiplied to a point where you can't pay, right?
Well, no. It's not. They might take your home when you don't pay your taxes or default on your loan. But the minute your property goes below a certain amount, let's say you buy a house for 300,000, and the property value goes below 150,000, you no longer have a financial backing for your loan. So they're going to automatically default it whether you're paying on time or not, because you can no longer guarantee you have that money.
And the irony will be the property value will drop because of what the government did with low-income housing in your neighborhood.
Exactly. That's how they screw you up. They're gonna, whether they're gonna poison the well or they're gonna ruin the power supply or whatever that makes your property valuable, they're gonna ruin that, and then you automatically default on your loan because your property is no longer guaranteed to be that equitable to your loan. And that's the main deviant ability they have done. They've done this to the Indians.
Yes.
Just ask the natives how their reservations got shrunken down over the decades.
Well, it got shrunken down to the crap nobody wanted, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now those reservations are no longer viable. So the minute subsidies those falter, they're going to reclaim those reservations as well. And they're going to put it under a fancy little name where it's, we're going to make this a green sector. We're going to make this all nice.
Well, here's that video Kitty sent us of the Dutch farmers' protest.
All
They weren't allowed to be there. But the thing is, with a tractor, they have more horsepower than a tank, so they can just go there.
Oh, they just drove right through the parks and everything.
Yeah. Because we have a field called the Malieveld, which is basically the protesting field, and they had permits to go there. But on the day of the protest, those permits were revoked. And they were like, well, fuck it, we have all-terrain vehicles. We have more horsepower. The government even deployed tanks to curb them from going into the city. But as you can see, they're just driving through the city.
Wow. Yeah, I've been close to, because we have farms. We have a farm less than a quarter mile away, and I know the guy. I've been close to those tractors. They are monsters. The back tires were taller than I am. I'm 6 feet tall, and those rear tractor tires were about a foot taller than me.
Yeah, but can you imagine them doing this in New York City, for instance?
Oh, well, number one, half of New York City would hide because they wouldn't know what a tractor was, to be honest with you.
Well, no, but the whole thing is, these things only go 30 miles an hour. So can you imagine the traffic jam New York would have? Because they did this on strategic parts of the highways where those things go between 30 and 40 miles an hour. They went 15 miles an hour. So anything that would go that had to be delivered within 2 hours would get delivered in 16 hours.
Wow.
Do that. If you do that with a major metropolis like New York City, because they did this with Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, the major trading hubs. If you do that with New York City, they immediately go starving.
Wow, you got some farmers fighting with the police.
No. The cops basically go, please don't do this. And the farmers are like, screw you, get out of the way.
Oh, those look like John Deere tractors. There's some Case tractors. I think those are still made in America. So most of the places you see tractors, this is what was on the video, they're basically not allowed to be, but they were everywhere, apparently.
Yeah, please understand, this is Den Haag is a town of, I believe, around 500,000 people. There were well over 5,000 tractors in Den Haag.
Holy cow. Oh, I could see where they slowed up the freeway.
Yep, and the best bit is the truck drivers were perfectly fine with this.
Oh, because they're next on the list. That's why the truck drivers in America are talking about striking, is because we do have a lot of independent truck drivers that aren't part of a company. And if you start jacking up fuel prices, because most of them run on diesel, which is expensive to begin with, but if you start jacking up diesel prices, that takes money away from their family. So that's why you're seeing this big push to strike.
I don't understand that though, because over here it's gas. That's the most expensive, then diesel, and then actual gas-powered cars.
Well,
So,
gas went way down in the U.S. after Trump started, because finally, for the first time in a generation, the U.S. is not dependent on Saudi oil. So the Saudis don't control the price here any longer, so much as they used to do.
But diesel is the byproduct of refining gas. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
Diesel
for
is the
some
cheaper
reason,
fuel.
diesel is about $1.25 more a gallon than regular unleaded fuel.
But yeah, as you can see, that's you only see about 100 or 200 tractors on that field. Still a lot of tractors. But they did this all across the nation, and they tried to divide up the farmers, where it's like we got a province called Friesland, where they were going to give Friesland farmers an exemption, but other farmers didn't. And the Friesland farmers were like, yeah, we are not going to accept that. And other farmers were like, well, we're suddenly free farmers. This is Friesland as well.
So did the farmers threaten to keep doing this until it stopped, or?
Well, that's the thing. Early December, the farmers won. But like any victory with the government, it's now never a guaranteed victory. They're going to try this in a few years again.
Of course, Kitty B right on target, and I just noticed it, but I was talking about how they were going to start saying meat had COVID in it so that you couldn't eat meat any longer. Boom, she's got it right here. Here it is. Let's play it and see what it is. What I read was an article. Kitty sent me a link to a video, which is even better.
Do you need to worry about the meat that you're buying, whether it's contaminated with coronavirus? Well, a nonprofit physicians group says yes, and they're asking a federal court to order meat and poultry processing plants to test their products. Our Alexis Keenan is here. She has been covering this story. Alexis, do we need to worry about this? I mean, what exactly is this physicians group saying is going on at these plants?
Yeah, well, I'm certainly starting to think about it. Now, this nonprofit group of physicians, it is made up of a group whose mission is to reduce animal testing in scientific research, also has a preventative medicine through food bent. But look, they regularly monitor food safety policy, and they filed a petition with the USDA saying that they want it.
Okay, so this group apparently is basically an animal rights group of doctors.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And well, hold on. This non-profit, which means it's being funded by the government, or privately funded by a big corporation, because otherwise you wouldn't be a non-profit. Let's be honest. The main problem with this is there's salmonella in the meat. There is all sorts of nasty viruses and bacteria in the meat. Do you know why you don't get those? Because you cook them.
yes, and apparently flames do not kill coronavirus. Let's continue on. But this also ties into like Boogie Bumper talks about, which is they're slowly chipping away at you. Even if the story is just bunk created by a NGO or a privately funded group, this is the slow chipping away at your psyche to scare people away from buying meat, right?
Well, they put it in the mind, guys. And the main problem with this is, especially in America, there is no counter argument.
You can't have one now.
Well, there's no counter argument allowed, because even AJ, we can't say his full name, because even D Live is currently on the watch list of the FPLC.
Yep.
They've pushed him so far on the fringe that they're now being able to say he's a fringe news item that's housing all these crazy people. Well, if they're all crazy people, how come your people aren't crazy?
and the sad part about AJ is he, quite frankly, I used to watch him all the time 20 years ago. He was right. I mean, everything he said back then is coming true. And so much for conspiracy theorists, right?
And to address Monica, at some point in time, they're going to say Corona spreads like the plague through farts.
You'll have to wear rubber
who's
pants.
Who's going to say it doesn't happen?
Monica, you'll have to wear rubber pants to keep your coronavirus farts.
You're going to have to wear swim diapers, like Andrew Ditch.
Oh, no.
wanted meat and poultry testing to ensure that at plants where it's processed, that it's not contaminated with COVID-19. They also want those results published so that the public can see what they're eating. Now, that petition was turned down, and that was the impetus for this lawsuit. In response, the group said that specifically they want the meat that's processed for human consumption to be tested. I talked with the attorney for the group, and he described the processing plants for meat and poultry as really a perfect storm, is the way he said it, for spreading the virus. For one, there's the volume of processing at these plants. You have about 300 cows, 1,000 pigs per hour being processed.
You
have on a daily.
Yep.
Can you pull up Kitty? Can you pull up how do they do it in processing plants? Because they seem to forget the little thing of how freaking sterile those plants are. Because that's the entire problem. The minute you make food in a factory, it needs to be sterile and like hell, or you're gonna get sued out of oblivion by the government. And you're gonna get closed down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how is that virus going to survive in a sterile environment, which they so hugely promote you should do at home?
I backed up a little bit to the chart. The chart says there were, this is from the CDC, mind you, 16,000 cases, 233 cases, and 239 facilities attributed to 86 deaths. And here's the kicker. 87% among racial or ethnic minorities. You don't think they threw that in there by accident, do you?
No, but here's the thing. They didn't get it from the factory. They got it at home. They were just employees of said factory. And this is how they're going to be able to tax farmers into oblivion. Because now there's going to be a health tax on food.
I didn't know COVID was racist. It only goes after minorities, apparently, as well. Just like it goes to bed at 10 o'clock.
Virus. What do you think?
And it goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night in New York. Did you know that, too? It stops. It comes out at 10 o'clock at night. Sorry. The restaurants and the bars have to close at 10 p.m. because of the risk of coronavirus. But before then, you can be wide open. It's odd.
You want to know a fun story? They tried to pull that over here. You guys never had the Second World War happen on your soil. So we had the German occupation, which had a curfew. So guess what we Dutch did? The entire internet, everywhere in the country, we were talking about, well, we're back to the Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
The government did not like that. And everyone always, as always, they'll pull, oh, how can you equate it with the Jewish plight and whatnot? We have protest groups that will wear the Jewish star because they don't want to be vaccinated. They were like, oh, you can't pull it on the Jews. Now they're currently talking about, if you're not vaccinated, you don't get public transport, you don't get to be in pubs and bars, you don't get to be a person. And that's the entire irony. Where are the people who cried, oh, you can't pull a Jew on this? Because you don't hear them now.
Yep. Well, you're starting to see people in America wake up to this because they are outright calling Governor Whitmer, Andrew Cuomo, the Nazi, either Hitler, Himmler, or something to that effect.
Because he already drives an authentic SS car to public places. So Cuomo is an easy mark.
Well, here he is, by the way. That was a perfect segue into, here's Cuomo, and they're shutting down New York City schools again. We expect the rest of the state's schools to shut down probably during the Thanksgiving break that schools have. That's what the superintendents are anticipating. They don't want to shut down out here, but of course, the governor has already threatened to pull school funding if they don't comply. But here he is speaking to a reporter who asks him about shutting down schools, which everybody is starting to say has a very negative effect, especially on the younger children, and the high school children are actually failing miserably. So here is a reporter.
Well, of course, the parents who didn't care for the children are now suddenly have to care for their children.
Right.
It's never going to work. Because they were used to having their kids be on the internet.
Yep.
They weren't supposed to be interacting with their child.
Well, that and children cannot learn via remote learning, especially smaller children.
They can, but sure, they can learn via remote learning. The problem is that means someone has to sit next to them explaining shit. And those parents are nowhere to be found. Because we already ruined that nuclear family concept.
I should have rephrased that as they can't learn independently remotely, right?
On their own.
Right. Yes. Here's Andrew Cuomo responding to a question, and they talk about trumping an ass to the media. How about this?
Have to impose an orange zone, and I might have to close the schools, which an orange zone does. So what's going on? Does the city still have the ability to close its schools? Are you now taking control and saying that you have the power to make this decision? And for the millions of parents who want to know, are the schools going to open tomorrow in New York City?
All right. First of all, let's try not to be obnoxious and offensive in your tone, because you're 100% wrong. We announced the Orange Zone law over a month ago. I don't know if you were here.
It's not a law, by the way.
Yeah, but they're already talking like it's a law.
Yeah,
it's putting it in the zeitgeist of the people.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a law now. It was always a law. Even though it's never ratified, it's not even on paper.
Exactly. It's a mandate or an executive order or their decisions, and it's not gone through the assembly and past the Senate, and it has not been signed into law.
Or if you were paying attention. But that has been in effect for over a month. It always said, if by the state's numbers you hit 3%, the schools close. What's going on here is nothing that the law hasn't said for over a month. We then had the test out procedures. If you were paying attention, you would have known we closed the schools in New York City 2 weeks ago. Remember when we did an orange zone and a red zone in Brooklyn and Queens, and we closed the schools? Don't you remember that?
It was 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're now going to override. We did it already. That's the law, an orange zone and a red zone. Follow the facts.
I'm still confused.
Well, then you're confused.
I'm confused, and
Then I'll tell you what, Jimmy.
Parents are still confused as well. The schools
No,
in New
they're
York
not
City
confused.
tomorrow.
You're confused.
No, I think
Read
parents
the
are
law.
very confused as well.
Read the law, and you won't be confused.
But Governor,
Go ahead.
following Jimmy's question, are the schools going to be open tomorrow?
The schools are open by state law.
Will they be open tomorrow? That's the question. I think Jimmy's correct in asking that question. I don't think it's obnoxious at all.
Well, I don't really care what you think.
There you
The other day
go.
you said,
There you go. He reminds me of a guy who's watched one too many Goodfella movies
No.
on
He's
repeat.
pulling an AOC.
Well, he has this air of, I want to be a mob boss, and I'm trying to be a mob boss, although I'm doing it poorly, right?
He's been trying to be Rudy Giuliani ever since he got into office and failing at it tremendously so. But he's pulling an AOC, Darth Vader-esque. I've altered the agreement. Pray I don't alter it any further. That's the entire thing. Because they've said over here they've been going, oh, the emergency law is going to be in effect, and everyone is telling them it's not a law. As long as it's not ratified, it's not a law. It's an and that's the whole thing. They've changed from emergency law rulings, mandates, you know what, to it's now a law, and that's a scary fact because the minute people accept that for truth, you're screwed.
Exactly. So, getting back, Victor, to the Great Reset, because I know a lot of people have a lot of angst about it, and they probably should, especially in this country, where we have a constitution that will probably no longer exist under a Great Reset. What do you know as far as the worst things that you know, if you will?
The worst things, I would say, East Germany, where they'll make government housing Stalin-esque, where it's basically you don't even own your own furniture. It's completely remodeled. And back in those days, they would actually have CCTV cameras in your house. These days, they don't need to. You already have them. Your phone, your Alexa, your Siri, you name it. They're already in your home. So that's how scary it can get. The Stasi won't be around patrolling anymore. There's no need for it. There's an app for that.
Yes,
that's how scary it can get.
And the IMF does, and the World Economic Forum does address that we will be monitored 24/7. Actually, it went as far as to say that we will have to check in when we're leaving our designated area, if you will. If we're traveling, we'll have to let them know.
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole scary thing with this globalist agenda. They're trying stuff out in every nation, every state. And every time something sticks around, they'll use that as proof to use it globally. And that's Greece currently has. You have to text the government if you want to leave your home. You have to tell them where you're going. There's no timer on it right now. But please understand, they have a timer on their end. So if your mobile phone doesn't reach the destination you had, and by a certain time, they're going to check in on your phone and find where you are, and then they'll send a cop to that place. In Norway, they have currently an even scarier concept where they're pretty much everywhere they have to go, they have to verify themselves. You guys have that with your restaurants already, where you have to scan your QR codes and whatnot. In Norway, they have to do it everywhere. They put QR codes on the house numbers. So when you go enter your friend's house, you have to scan that number. That's how scary shit can get. And if that's going to be implemented globally, because they're field testing it everywhere, and that's the whole problem. They're going to say it works over there, so it should work over here.
Well, that's going to be a huge problem here, because half the country, if not more, in the United States, will not comply.
They might not comply. That's fine. Do you think they're going to arrest the entire country instantly, or are they going to single out people and make examples of them?
They'll make examples of the loudest, but the U.S.
Exactly, and this is the thing. This happened in under the Iron Curtain in Stalin's regime. This happened under Hitler's regime. This happened under Napoleonism. Please understand. The reason why you have a last name is because of Napoleon. The reason why your house has a number is because of Napoleon. They needed that so they could find you.
Yep.
Because not everyone could be named Hans. Because Hans needed to have a last name.
That's right, because they need to know which Hans to arrest, right?
Exactly. And where did Hans live? Well, in that farmhouse. Which farmhouse? There are 20. Well, in farmhouse number 20.
Now they got where you live, Hans.
Yeah, Hitler did the same thing. The Social Security Code came from Hitler, like it or not.
So I'm gonna bring up one thing, but first, Kitty sent me another link about what's going on in New York right now. After hold on, let me back that up a little bit. Get it on the screen for everybody. They are currently, and I don't know how many people are there because it doesn't say, but there is a large group at I think it's Gracie Mansion for the governor of New York, protesting. So this is unusual for New York, to be honest with you, especially in downstate. But it looks like there's quite a few people there. We'll play the video. Oh, they aren't at the mansion. They're at his actual home. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, they're going to pull the same things. But here's the thing. This is going to set precedents.
It looks like a fairly good-sized crowd at his home. Although they aren't smashing his windows or spray painting his property, which is different from the other group.
The main problem with this is they're going to leave.
Yep.
At some point, they're going to leave. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to let them protest. Protest all you want. No one cares.
The lesson that they haven't learned from the left is you bring tents and you camp out there every day.
Exactly. The minute you're not leaving, you're becoming a problem. And then they're going to have to put in the law enforcement. And then law enforcement has to judge whether or not they're going to enforce it. And sadly, in the major metropolises, law enforcement has become so corrupt and eroded to the point where they have to enforce it, even the people who are like, that's not legal.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I believe in New York State, a lot of sheriffs are defying government mandates.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. It's up to 4 or 5 now.
Yeah. The thing is, they can refuse all they want. The minute things starts to go into legislation and pass along, and their power bases are being solidified even further, those sheriffs are going to be gone. And you won't get to elect the next set of sheriffs. They're going to install their sheriffs. That's the scary bit.
Well, under our Constitution, and a lot of people don't know this,
Again,
the county
the
sheriff
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Everyone is always, well, the Constitution. Well, unless someone is going to uphold the Constitution, it's not going to matter.
Well,
and that's something everyone has to be aware of.
The county sheriff in the United States has actually more power than the state patrol or the state police. They actually have quite a bit of power in the United States, and that was set up in the Constitution. But you need the New York State Supreme Court to back the sheriffs, and if they don't, then it has to go to the Supreme Court. And if it's packed with 5 more liberal justices, good luck with that.
Oh, even easier. Why not completely ignore the justice departments? Because the states can still deploy the military. What is a sheriff going to do against the military?
Right. Well, there's only about 20 of them in my county active.
But
so
that's the main problem. Because this is what they did before Hitler, before Stalin. Before the First World War, it was basically, law enforcement doesn't work, we'll send in the military. Law enforcement doesn't have the equipment the military does, so they're going to stand aside. That's how easily they're going to circumvent that. Because they'll just state, well, that's an emergency in that area. Please ignore that area.
Well, before they do try to implement any of this from the Great Reset or Agenda 2030, the first thing they're going to do in the United States is eliminate all of the guns. Right? They're going to come and collect the guns. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, come and take it, but when the military shows up at your door, with 20 guys, you're not going to fight them. You're going to hand it over, right?
Well, you'd think they'd come for your guns.
That
They're
would
not
be the
gonna come
first
for
thing
your
I would
guns.
do. If I was the
No.
New World Order or IMF or whatever, that's the first thing that they would have to do in the United States.
The first thing I would do is I would come for your family, just like how the Nazis used to do, the Russians, the communist Russians used to do, how China does it now. Because the thing is, the social credit system in China, if I misbehave, my credit system goes down. You'd think, well, that's your problem. Well, no, because anyone I'm affiliated with, the company I work at, my wife, my parents, my kids, they're all going to be affected by my social credit score. So what's going to happen is I'm going to be ostracized by everyone. Guess what the state can do? They can do everything after that point, because no one's going to back me up.
Right. Exactly.
And what Kitty said, like they did with Ruby Ridge and Waco, the minute
No.
you start to hold up and arm yourself, they're going to make an example out of you. And Waco is not a good example. Ruby Ridge is a great example. Because
Well-
Waco pretty much knew what happened at Ruby Ridge and started to pretty much go make us Ruby Ridge. Because my cult needs this because people started leaving.
So yeah, well, they're going to get your guns one way or another. Otherwise, they're not going to get very far with implementing. So that's got to be the first thing, order of business, whether it be through ostracizing you or going after your family. They're going to get you to have to turn in your firearms,
Yeah,
right?
but the first thing they would do is ostracize you, so you become a renegade, become a rebel, and they're not going to open fire first.
Well,
You're going to open fire first.
In the
because
US,
you're going to be set to the breaking point. So
Yep.
the minute one of them crosses the line, you're going to be opening fire, and they're going to be justified. And all the cameras will point that out, just like how they showed that with Waco.
And in the U.S., what they'll do is they'll get you on they'll create red flag laws if Biden is president. So you'll be on a list, right? So it won't make a difference.
Well, let's be honest, the FBI list, who checks that list? The FBI is going to have a new list.
Yep, you'll be on a list, just like a no-fly list, but they'll be coming after you to get those guns if you're a holdout, for sure. And they know exactly how many guns everybody has.
Guns. They don't mind you having guns. They mind you not complying.
Right.
So anyone who doesn't comply is going to get screwed over. And then everyone who owns guns is going to be up in arms. Oh, they're going to come for our guns. No, they're not. They just want you to comply.
And if you don't comply, then they will come for your guns.
Well, no, they'll come for you. That's the agenda point, because the guns don't the guns really don't matter. And that way, 40-60% of the gun owners are going to comply, because they get to own their guns.
Right. So
that's why you don't need the guns.
Gary Vance says they will just use another bug, another virus, in other words. So, yeah, why not? I mean, they'll have everybody scared to death and hiding in their hovels at that point. And like Boogie Bumper says all the time, yes, Mr. Government, thank you for saving me. You know?
Thank you for keeping me safe.
Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Here we got it.
Well, that sounds great. Nothing ever bad comes from being put on a list by a government. They're doing it to keep me safe. They're protecting me. Thank you for keeping me safe.
Oh, it's sad when fiction is becoming reality. I think the only thing that will stop the U.S.'s acceleration into the Great Reset is if Donald Trump can pull this off.
Well, again, if Donald Trump pulls it off and actually holds his ground, because that's the major problem. Like I said before, whether whose side wins in this election, the other side will be destroyed.
Right. Do you think he knows what's going to happen if he doesn't win?
He knows, but he doesn't. He has money, so it's not a problem.
Well, I think in some respects he generally wants the U.S. to remain as is and not be part of the Great Reset.
Well, no, but the main thing is if let's say it goes to Biden and they're gonna try to charge him in court, which they've already been talking about. Trump can just willy-nilly go to Russia. Problem solved for Donald Trump. He already has a tower there, so he's fine.
Now that's one.
They'll still take all his buildings in America. They'll deplete his U.S. bank accounts, you name it. But he himself and his family wouldn't be into a big of a pickle. The people below him, though, they're screwed because they don't have that way out. And those are also on the list. In fact, Trump isn't even on their list. Everyone else is on the list.
The interesting thing, you brought up Russia. Now, Russia, I have not seen anything relating to the Great Reset regarding Russia. And I have an inkling that Putin would never allow that to happen in Russia.
Not Putin, the oil barons of Russia wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
Because their entire power base is structured around them having power. And Russians are more aware of giving away their power than anyone else. Because before first you had the Romanovs, then you had the Bolsheviks, then you had Leninism, then Stalinism, and now you got Putin.
Yeah.
And before, and even between those two, you had the KGB dude. I would say Kalashnikov, but the other one, Gorbachev and the likes. Yeah. They already had their freedoms given away every 20, 30 years. Putin has been the most stable one for the oil barons, and that's all they care about. They want to control their own power, so they're not going to relinquish it to a globalist party.
Well, we all may have to learn Russian if Biden is installed. Oh man, this is crazy. I this Great Reset thing. There's so many layers to it, and none of it looks good or is appetizing.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
Thank you for the ice cream, Monica. Yeah, none of this looks appetizing or good for anybody like us. That's for sure. And Kitty B, you're in Canada? I'm sorry, but it looks like Justin Trudeau is 100% on board. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, there we go. I got the notification. Like I said before, Canada and Australia don't follow America's lead. They follow Britain's lead. And just look at Britain, Australia, and Canada. Those three, they're basically robbing their citizens' liberties at different junctions and points. Again, that's the only way for them to go. Look at Australia. It's working perfectly fine over there. So we're going to implement it over here on top of our laws and regulations. And Australia is going to be, look at Britain. It's working over in Britain. So we're going to put ours over here. Same for Canada. They're going to go, look at Australia, look at Britain. We're going to do it over here. And from a globalist agenda, the same is happening over here in Europe. They're testing shit out in Italy, in Greece, in Spain, in Germany, in Austria and Poland are currently the biggest naysayers on the whole thing. And as I've said, Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, and all those East Bloc nations are becoming a rivaling powerhouse towards the Benelux, the Dutch, Belgium, and Luxembourgs. If those things happen, the rest of Europe will have no say of the matter at all. So they're going to have to take Poland down a peg pretty soon, or they're going to be screwed when it comes to the globalist agenda in Europe. Because they already have south of Europe under the belt.
You're seeing a few countries liking what Poland is doing. Quite honestly, they're like, "No, we're not taking refugees. No, we're our own country." They come right out and in your face, right to the globalists, and saying it's not going to happen here. Sorry.
Well, Austria, who has the border with who has had the biggest problems with the refugee issue, they've been saying no for the past 6 years, I think now. But now Poland is coming into the bunch. So, and Poland has money, unlike Austria, because Austria and Germany are they are westernized countries, but they're underdeveloped countries. They're you would call them second world countries, even though they're currently their status is first world countries. And that's kind of the thing. If your economy doesn't back that up, you're screwed, because they're just going to take away your trade, they're going to take your subsidies, they're going to take any form of income you'll have, and your country is going to implode, so they'll install a new person.
Exactly. They are, well, from my perspective, it looks like New York, California, Michigan, New Jersey, all of the Democrat states who I think are on board with the Great Reset are shutting down the states again just to pummel people into the ground to accept it. Okay, yeah, I've got nothing left. I don't have my business. I can't pay my bills. I'm about to lose my house.
They're not gonna pummel people into the ground to accept it. They're gonna pummel people into the ground to the point they're gonna be reliant on government subsidies.
So, in other words, they're gonna pound you into the ground with the lockdowns until you're begging them to help.
Exactly, and then they have you, because the minute you refuse, you lose everything.
Right. So they're purposefully putting people in a box now and shrinking that box.
Well, they've been doing that ever since, let's see, 1902.
Yep. What's different now, though, I think, is the accelerated rate at which you're doing it.
Well, they got their studies all done, because during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, they all held studies on how to segregate people. Eye of the Storm is a very good comparison, where a Jewish lady shows up at your school and suddenly tells every brown-eyed kid they're better than the blue-eyed kids. And there is protest against it for 2 weeks.
Yep.
But the program lasts for 3 months. After 3 months, everyone is compliant. And the brown-eyed people are bosses, and the blue-eyed people are lower. You also have that college study that's very famous. People made movies about it, where a certain group were the jailers, and the other group were in jail. And that study went way wrong. But for the study itself, it went perfect, because it proved the thing. And it mainly means if you give someone unbridled power, they're going to be corrupt. And you can guide that corruption any way, shape, or form you see fit. And that's kind of the whole globalist thing, problem thing, where it's, if I'm going to give a black person who never had a chance in life, and I make him king, what's going to happen with that black person? That black person is going to ostracize anyone who's going to be any way, shape, form, or remotely a threat. And they will apply as much force as they see fit. And they don't know bounds, because they don't care. Because the minute you threaten their power base, you're becoming the enemy.
Exactly. And Kitty B with another link here. We were talking about Poland. She's got a link here for us. I don't know what's wrong with YouTube.
Kitty pulled the Poland Pride Parade. Kitty should
A
pull
wave of
the
hostility
abortus
towards
parade.
LGBTQ people in Poland has alarmed officials and
hold
led the
on.
American
I
ambassador
don't
there
know
to
what
denounce
is
conservative
YouTube's
Polish
malfunction
newspapers
today.
for stoking hatred in its campaign for
But it's
so-called
playing
LGBT
and the video
free
isn't
zones.
even there. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. It's a mess today. All right, here we go. They're calling them prejudiced or racist, I guess.
It's prejudice because currently they're stating the public media over there, that's corporately owned over there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make something clear. They have their own CNN and whatnot. They're calling them state media.
Like what we have
the
here.
Polish don't have their own media. That's the big irony over there. But they're calling them state media nonetheless.
Well, this video is from PBS, so that's U.S. Public Broadcasting System, which is far left.
Oh no, this is the American interview, but the lady, I already catched what she was saying is they're already condemning the Polish media over there for being state-owned media, even though the Polish don't own state media.
Wow.
They only have corporate media over there, and that's the whole skewing the facts thing.
A wave of hostility towards LGBTQ people in Poland has alarmed officials and led the American ambassador there to denounce conservative Polish newspapers for stoking hatred in its campaign for so-called LGBT-free zones. Those fears were realized this weekend as a mob of right-wing Poles attacked a pride march in the town of Białystok.
Do you know for a fact, madam, that they were right-wing? I mean, just because they don't agree doesn't mean they're all right-wing, right?
Simple explanation about the Polish people. They're not right-winged, they're Polish people.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be just they don't like it,
99%
right?
99% of the Polish people are Catholics. And they're not Catholics in the U.S. term. No, they're South American Catholics. So good luck with your gay agenda over there.
I love how they throw the boogeyman of the right-wing extremists.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Hold on. They call everything right-wing. They even let's see, ROTC had one where they showcased how the Democrats used to be the right wing.
Yep.
But they were the right wing. Now they were the Democrats. They had different viewpoints at that time. But they immediately labeled the word right wing because right wing equals evil.
Now, what's interesting is you never hear the words far left in the media. Almost never hear that.
Oh, no. Those are liberal people.
Or progressives, because progressive sounds, they're for progress. Yay! Right? All right, here we go with that video again.
One of several districts that have declared themselves to be LGBT-free. From Białystok in eastern Poland, special correspondent Malcolm Brabant reports.
God, honor, motherland, they chanted. Wearing obscene anti-gay t-shirts, some hardcore right-wingers were intent on violence. Following their lead, thousands...
Some hardcore right-wingers.
Yeah, hold on. They were intent on violence. Do you know how big that gay parade was?
How big was it?
Pull a number.
You mean the hard right-wing...
No, the gay parade. How many people were there in the gay parade?
300.
80.
Holy cow.
How many right-wingers were there, do you think?
Probably about 1,000.
800.
Oh, that was close.
But the right-wingers were the aggressors over there. Because those 80 people, of course, came out alive out of that whole scenario.
Yeah. So nobody got hurt marching in the gay parade, but the extreme right-wingers hell-bent on violence didn't hurt them. So
No, the whole thing came to be where the gay people started chanting anti-Catholic slogans.
Ah.
And you don't touch their faith over there.
But the news guy here didn't report the fact that so
Of
far.
course not. It's not their agenda to report things correctly.
The gay parade was yelling anti-Catholic slogans, but the media guy here forgot.
Thousands of people from Bialystok, including senior citizens, lambasted marchers protesting against the sudden rise of so-called LGBT-free zones. Among those they tried to intimidate, Malgorzata Mrozh.
It makes me sad that people claim those LGBT
Wait, do you see the
zones.
aggression?
What's that?
Where is the aggression? Well, the aggression. Where are they being beaten?
Because don't see it.
This is Eastern Europe. When there is aggression, it's going to be Black Lives Matter attacking them.
Yes.
That's how big the aggression is going to be. So
I've actually seen that. I've seen videos of Black Lives Matter in Europe just obliterating people for disagreeing with Black Lives Matter. It's like here when Antifa and Black Lives Matter are marching and they just see, and there are videos out there that prove I'm right, just see a random guy, white guy, walking out of the store. They've chased this person, calling them a Nazi. And this person's like, what? I don't know what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, but that's, that's in the UK, because Black Lives Matter tried to be in mainland Europe, and the thing is, mainland Europe has something called our heritage, where we know our history, and we didn't do anything to the blacks, at least not on our ground. So, Black Lives Matter happened in the Netherlands, for instance. Well, a huge group. It only happened when the black dude got choked out. So there was a huge bunch of people who were like, "Oh no, the black dude. We stand solidarity with Black Lives Matter." After that, it ended because no one cares.
Oh, by the way, nobody heard it.
We don't have black.
But the cause of death of George Floyd was not the choking. They forgot to tell you that.
Oh yeah, but that's the whole thing. But over here in Europe, we don't have the racial divide like America has. And the biggest irony is before the Jim Crow laws got abolished, and the 80s late 70s, 80s set in, America didn't have a racial divide.
No, we didn't. We did.
There were stories where blacks got killed, but let's be honest. If in Mississippi 5 blacks got killed in a year by racists, they'd still have to kill a couple million, or at least a million or two, to even make any progress. So, sure, you have your minor racists, but it's not as big as they like to make you believe it is. And after the 80s and 90s, it blew up.
Yep. Yeah, well, it really boiled over in the Obama era, which is hard to believe because he was a black president. But that's when the rise of BLM started. What's that? Well, he antagonized it, to be honest with you. I think he caused more racial division.
He promoted it.
Yes. And Kitty, of course, provided us with some videos of that.
Poland, because me, as a bisexual and also Polish person, I really would love to feel welcome in every single place in this country.
The marchers were vastly outnumbered, and police protection was essential. Gay activists claim they've replaced refugees as Poland's main hate figure.
Oh yeah, I didn't forget to tell you about that. The Polish, that's an entire white nation. If you find a black person, you might as well have won the lottery over there.
Holy cow! The way they frame this.
Well, that's the entire problem with Europe. everyone thinks, oh, there must, just like in America, where they're like, there must be 50% black people and 50% white people. No. In Europe, it's maybe 2 or 3% that are colored.
Even in America, though, only 15% of the population of 340 million people are black.
Well, that's the entire irony. That's why they want to lower the borders and import all the Africans.
And Muslims, too.
Well, we've had the whole Muslim influx already, and let's just say the Muslims over here, unless they're Turkish, they don't really care for other Muslims because they get integrated and start to hate other Muslims because of it.
Well, in my area, you do have, like, remember the Bosnian War? We've got a lot of Bosnian refugees.
So do we.
And
they integrated and they became more white than we were.
Only about 75% of them are integrated, love it here, love America. They like the idea of freedom and doing what they want and getting a job, all of that. They like all of it, okay? There's 25% that can't stand it here. They want to go back.
To address Kitty, they didn't flew in some queers. Poland has maybe 1,000 queers within their population. Those that went there, those are all Polish, but there were only 50. And the they only showed up to counter the 800 people march.
Oh,
that's the problem. This wasn't a gay march. This was an anti-gay march, and the gays showed up.
Ah, I see. They're framing it as it was a gay parade, and the anti-gay people showed up.
There is no gay parade in Poland.
Ah, so why the deception by the media? I mean,
because you guys don't know about Poland.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't even know where Poland is.
And this is targeted to a U.S. audience, obviously, if it's on PBS.
This is for a U.S. audience. They're like, look at how they bully the gay Polish. And we're like, the gay Polish? You mean those 5 people? It's not enough. Even in our progressive nation of the Netherlands, they have the current problem where we Dutch don't give a crap about the gays. We have gay parades and floats and all that kind of crap. We've had it since we legalized gay marriage in the 80s. But since we've been promoting the influx of Muslims, the Muslims have a problem with that.
Yes, they do.
That's kind of a problematic thing because we need to like the Muslims and we need to like the gays. How do we frame the Dutch people in there? Because the Dutch people aren't even remotely near that part.
There's a lot of irony in that the U.S. was doing that under Obama, bringing in refugees from Muslim countries who hate gay people, but yet the Obama administration was trying to promote gay people. So it's like you're bringing people here who hate gays, and you're trying.
Well, look on the British Prime Minister. What's his face? He was buddies with Bush.
Yep.
The English hate him mercilessly.
Tony Blair, right?
Tony Blair, that's the one, yeah. He imported Muslims by the bushload.
Yep.
The big irony is, I'm sorry to say it, but Britain has an inbreeding problem. The Indians they imported from India, they don't breed with the British. So they import the Muslims, and the Muslims don't care for either. And pretty much start throwing acid in people's faces because they didn't like them. Whether they were gay or they had something to say about Muhammad or whatnot, they would just throw a fit and start acid bathing people. And that's the big irony. It started with a few, and they've been importing them by the thousands.
Yep.
But again, those Muslims don't mingle with the British. They don't mingle with the Indians. They mingle with themselves. So the inbreeding problem persists. And now we have 3 different blocks of people that are inbreeding.
And they don't like each other.
Exactly, that's the entire problem.
And that's what the Great Reset wants to do. They're just going to, no borders, you're just going to move people around, shift people around to, bring thousands, maybe even millions of people into the U.S. And quite frankly, the U.S. has a lot of gay people, and those Muslims don't like gay people, and you're going to bring people from South America who are, a lot of South Americans are Catholic, and you could tell that by the shift to Trump with a Latino vote, right? Because they don't like abortion, they don't like, a lot of things that Democrats want. Yeah, exactly.
Catholics have, and no matter what the Pope says, Catholics will gonna do Catholic stuff. And to address Gary Vance, Obama caused the invasion of Europe with the Muslims. Yes, they did. But the main problem is, where did the problems showed at that invasion? At Austria, at the border, but that got resolved after they sent some Polish police officers over there. And in Greece, at the border, where they also sent some Polish police officers to solve the problem. But the thing is, so we started moving those Muslims all across Europe because we can't have them have them in one huge hump of people, because then they're going to cause a tremendous amount of problems.
Even though they're causing problems everywhere else.
Well, yeah, but if you look at France, Germany, Norwegian, Finland, Denmark, and those nations, they don't have an immigrant integration system. We Dutch have a crappy one, but at least our crappy one works.
Right.
So what we'll do is, if we get African people in, no matter what kind of race, we'll divide them over the entire nation so they don't clump up and become their own cultural hub of things. If you're looking at France, currently you'll have mobs running around killing people, simply because they have entire suburbs or blocks of people that are Muslim blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically a food army on itself, because they only interact with each other and they don't interact with anyone else. We drop them willy-nilly in small-town dwarfs, villages, where you have, now there's 10 Muslims, there's 5 Africans, there's 2 Egyptians, you name it. That's why they can't clump up, and the whole thing remains stable. But
now,
if you look at Norway, for instance, where the Muslims pretty much started becoming rape gangs and whatnot,
mm-hmm.
It's not because everyone is saying, they only send men. No, they also send entire families. But the problem is, they have more men than women, because just like the Chinese, they don't care for women. So
now,
males tend to survive better.
Gary Vance says Biden wants to bring in, I know it was a lot, but he says 12 million more from Islamic countries that Trump banned any immigration from.
But this is the whole Cuban, the Fidel Castro JFK scenario, where America is saying, bring us your Cubans that don't want to live in your nation. And what did Fidel Castro do? He opened all the jails and sent every criminal over to the U.S.
And that's
in
what
Argentina,
we'll get.
They're already making up refugee camps. 180,000 Argentinians are going to come to your country, and probably all of them are criminals, because those are the people the country doesn't need.
Right. And that's happened many times.
People tend to bitch about Trump calling Mexicans rapists and whatnot. He is not wrong, because they're the criminals that are coming.
Yes. They're emptying their prisons, and they've done that with a few of the caravans that Obama took in. And you found that out during the Trump years when we were arresting MS-13 at rapid rates, rapists, drunk drivers, felons. I mean, piles and piles of felons, and that was from the Obama years when he was allowing these caravans to come in. Here's your slip. Remember catch and release? Well, he was catching and releasing criminals that were sent from South America. I mean, oi. And they're going to do it again if Biden is the winner.
To comment on Gary Vance, Macron is afraid they're going to have a civil war. The Polish government already told them they would like to help. And they're pulling a Trump right now. They're telling every country in Europe, if you need help, just ask us. We fix problems very quickly. Because the Muslims know the Polish people. It's like having the Transylvanian government go, you guys have problems with Turks? We have pine cone trees over here. You need help?
What do you think is going to happen in France? Because I heard Le Pen is going to run again.
Le Pen needs to win.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Le Pen needs to win. Le Pen will, because Le Pen will simply jump on the Polish aid, send in. I don't know where Poland gets all these police officers. I believe the Polish government they have a 200,000 counting militia that are. They train daily. They have military trainings in the weekend, and military exercises in the weekend. With live explosives and all that kind of crap. Because if you think American militias are worse, try the Polish militia. They have military grade weapons. I think the Polish government is pretty much deputizing those people.
So if France needs help, there you go. Poland will step in and fix your problems for you.
Well, yeah, because the minute a Muslim person meets a Polish police officer, they're going to tone down really quick because the Polish are pretty much, they don't ask, they beat.
Yep.
They show up and they simply go, is there a problem? The minute someone raises their hand, he's going to get beat.
Now, you mentioned that the Polish are Catholic, right? And we've seen in the U.S. a outright attack on Christians or Catholics, religion in general. And would that not be part of the Great Reset, too, that you have to smash down religion?
Have you looked at the COVID map?
Yes.
The COVID is moving into the Bible Belt. Our Dutch Bible Belt got hit by the COVID. That was the first wave of COVID. It hit the Bible Belt. You shouldn't be surprised to see the Bible Belt getting decimated.
Although the death rate is not anything near what New York had.
The death rate is going to skyrocket, and they'll call it a mutation. Trust me. There's going to be record numbers in the Bible Belt, and they'll deploy military, whatnot, and people are going to get hurt.
Boca Bradley, what Eastern Bloc European country do I move to?
Boca, the thing is, the closest you are to the German border, the Russian border, the better. Because if Europe is going weird, you can just hop the border. Russia doesn't care. As long as you vote for the guy they want in power, Russia doesn't care what you do.
So they will work on eliminating religion as much as they possibly can. Almost like what Mao did, Chairman Mao did.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
here's what's interesting about the Chinese. The Chinese in 5,000 years have never had freedom, ever, right? They've never had freedom.
They've had freedom.
Under emperors, they've been under most of the country.
Under the dynasties, they had freedom because there was never a single, until they had single dynasties, there was always freedom because they could move to a different dynasty.
It's been a long time since the Chinese have had freedom. Let's put it that way.
Before Mao, they had freedom.
Under the Qing dynasty?
Yeah, they had more freedom than they ever did afterwards.
But they've also had foreign countries like Japan really treat the people that live there poorly. I mean, the elite were fine, but...
here's the thing between with Japan and China. China has tried to invade Japan countless times. Japan has done the same for against them. People can bitch about either side being wrong or right. They hate each other. That's the point.
Yep. So, the first thing Chairman Mao did was get rid of religion. I mean, he had his...
No. First thing he did was get rid of the teachers. Anyone who had a brain had to die. And look at America. All the teachers have been replaced to democratic-style social engineering teachers.
Yes.
Now religion is on the chopping block.
Yep. And that's what they did in China. They rounded up all the religious relics, destroyed them, and got rid of it. Because you can't have religion in a society like that. You just can't.
Yes, Gary fans. The U.S. saved China from Japan and actually promoted the Mao Mao into government, because they knew Russia would never be able to be a trade partner with China. That's where Nixon came in, and now we know how that story ended.
Well, what's interesting about that is China's armies were getting crushed by the Japanese army, which is kind of hard to believe, but they were. But the Chinese armies were also, there's a lot of corruption, right, between what general was going to gain the most opposed to another one, so they weren't really helping each other to fend off the Japanese.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You say the Chinese, how could the Chinese lose to the Japanese? Well, look at how high the losses were on the American side, and those were professional. Those weren't farmers. The Japanese and the Germans, they are war people. Even a civilian, the minute they get a few months training, they know exactly how to kill you, and they have a nature to actually go through that. The Chinese don't have that. Even as much of a military presence the U.S. is, Americans don't have the kill nature. Got to say that. That's why most Puerto Ricans are currently in the U.S. Military.
Here's one real quick thing. Kitty sent me from the Department of Homeland Security. Right-wing extremism. Current economic and political climate fueling resurgence in radicalization and recruitment. Can you believe this? They did not do one on left-wing extremism, though.
No. Hold on. This is the truest form of the word, because no offense, but how did Germany become Nazi Germany? Their economy was dead.
Yep.
And people need people to blame. That's the thing. If you know something to blame, you're gonna put all your hatred towards that and get blindsided.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just, I find it funny because I don't see the white supremacists running around rioting. You just don't see it. You don't see them. If they're out there, they're invisible right now. I'll tell you what.
I'd say give it 10 years and they're going to come out of the woodworks.
Well, it'll be created.
Because currently the white supremacists, or right-wing, or whatever group you want to call them currently, they still have jobs. They still have an income. Even during this entire crisis, they still have an income. The black people, however, they don't. That's why they're out in droves.
Here's some of the stuff. Perceived threat from rise of other countries. This is funny. It's just funny that they threw this out and totally ignored what's going on in the cities right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The minute a country, a foreign country is going to tell America, hey, knock it off, they're going to say, oh, they're agents from that country.
Yep. Exactly.
They'll already have there's a foreign influence in this group. We don't know who's doing it yet. The minute someone says, stop picking on your people, oh, they're from there. See, we told you all along.
Yep. Our government is I don't know how many people in the government. Donald Trump calls it a swamp. I think it's a lot bigger than a swamp at this point, and it's been heading that way for decades. Before we go, we got another 10 minutes or so. Where do you see? Did you watch the? First of all, did you watch the press conference today with the legal team from Trump?
Yeah, with the sweating Rudy Giuliani, who now pretty much came to the conclusion there is no evidence.
Oh, so you think there's no evidence, or the media thinks there's no evidence?
No, he has the problem. What's going to happen is there's going to be a recount, but the slips are no longer there because those got destroyed. So only the votes are there. So the recount is not going to matter anymore because the votes, whether the votes are legit or not, the votes are already there.
I think he's more driving toward the fact that there were illegalities regarding how votes were handled. The truckload that came in at 3:30 in the morning. I think that's his angle, is to say they circumvented election laws, which is illegal.
Yeah, and if this goes to a re-election, do you think Trump is going to get as many votes as he used to do?
As he did the first time, I would think it'd be close to the same amount. No, you think it'd be less?
Way less. Because people are already being fed. Biden is going to be the president, whether he cheats or not.
Yep.
So people are going to think my vote isn't going to matter, so why bother?
Now, what about the... well, actually, we wouldn't have a re-election, apparently, not under the Constitution. It would go to the Congress, but not Nancy Pelosi's Congress. It would go to, I can't remember the word, caucuses or something like that, which are controlled by the Republicans. Which is controlled by the Republican Party.
Yeah. And that's where the problem is going to be, because if the caucus decide, because the pressure is going to be on the caucus, and let's be honest, they're already bullying, basically labeling sitting officials as racists.
Well, these are not politicians. They're it's not, the caucus isn't the right word. It's something else, but it's people that are selected.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, but it doesn't matter because they already have seen in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania that they're now currently labeling people as racists if they're for the Republicans.
Right. And they're actually doxing their homes where their kids go to school.
Exactly, and Black Lives Matter is going rampant. Antifa is going rampant. Sorry, but if people are going to have to choose between their families or Trump, what are they going to do?
So these caucus members will be, I'm sure they're tracking them down right now.
Yeah. The minute they start to realize, it's going to go to the caucuses, you have no idea how fast those people are going to be ostracized. They're going to be shown, this is that person, he lives over there, he lives over there, this is his entire family, this is his uncle, this is his aunt, his...
yeah.
They're going to dox the crap out of them.
Now,
what's going to happen after that is pretty much they're going to pick for their own.
So here's why, if they can't get ballots thrown out, this is what I think they're trying to do, is get these ballots that did not follow the election law in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona. If they can't get these ballots thrown out, the illegal ballots, and the elections in those states are invalid, they don't want that to happen. This is my theory, my opinion. They don't want that to happen. They don't want elections in those states to be invalidated, because then it goes to the caucuses, and then you're running the risk of people being threatened, violence to their family. They want those ballots thrown out so that obviously Donald Trump would win those states if those illegal ballots are thrown out.
Yeah, and the problem is proving those ballots being illegal. That's where the whole sweating Juliana thing comes in.
Right.
He has a hard time proving that.
Well, he's got evidence of election law violations with the 100,000 ballots that came into Michigan and Detroit. Witnesses, okay, he's got that, so those ballots might get thrown out, but there's a big but, because all of these states are hiding this evidence. I mean, they need people to come forward.
Evidence.
Yeah,
and that's the scary bit.
Yep.
And sadly, the American Constitution has nothing stated or in law, whatever, against states going rogue.
Right. Now, if
that's the main problem.
I think what they're going to
didn't figure that one out.
I think when they get to the Supreme Court, that's what they're angling for in the Supreme Court, is to say that, hey, we've got evidence. Here's affidavits. Here's election laws that were violated. The Supreme Court could say that's what they're shooting for. The Supreme Court saying those ballots are not valid. They violated the state's election law. They have to go. And if that doesn't work and the elections are invalidated, then you run the risk of, they're not called caucuses. I'm wrong on that. It's called something else. But when it goes to Congress, to these groups of people, which the Republicans are in charge of, it's not Nancy Pelosi's Congress. It's these groups. And God, that name escapes
the electorate?
me. It's not the electorate. It's it's not caucus. It's something like that. That the Republicans control. Then you run the risk of these people flipping on Trump because they've been threatened.
Yeah, but even the Supreme Court has that problem.
Right.
Because they flat out already are campaigning. We're making lists. We're gonna oust you, and everyone knows there are these fringe groups of Black Lives Matter, of Antifa, and they're gonna show up at your home. And that's the whole scary bit.
Well, the difference between the caucus members or whatever they're called and the Supreme Court is they have Secret Service protection, that these caucus members don't, right?
No, but their family members don't.
Right. And they go after everybody. They go after everybody in your family.
Yeah, and the biggest irony is the media has already called Trump the crystal knocked. The crystal knocked is already out in the streets.
Yes. Yep.
People forget that. They are already out in the streets. They just need names.
Oh, Joe Biden is live right now. President-elect, they're calling him on. He's got the little office of the president-elect sign up. But
remember when people ridiculed Trump for having a little desk?
Yeah.
This is worse.
This is worse. Because constitutionally, he's not the president-elect until the election's been certified. And it hasn't been. None of the states have certified yet. What do you think about the Sidney Powell angle with the Dominion voting machines and the other system that they use, not SIST or whatever it's called? She also gave us a revelation today stating that the servers were taken, but she doesn't know by who in Germany.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've been taken by one of the 17 or 20 secret agencies. It's not being taken by the military. That's the whole problem. And we've seen what the FBI does. They don't do anything with them. So how can we expect any of the other agencies actually doing something with them?
Right. So if it's not, I hate to use this phrase, a good guy that's going to hand them over, and it's the CIA or somebody like, one of the three-letter, God, we have 17 of them, agencies that scooped up those servers, they'll never see the light of day.
Well, my biggest problem with it is it might be it's a way to blackmail Trump. Do our thing, and we'll get you into office.
It could be,
and that's kind of a problem with the whole thing. And as Gary Vance already says, the prize isn't with Trump, and that's the main issue. Why have a government when the agencies rule the land?
He's already done. Joe Biden's done already. Well, he went live when Trump went live with his coronavirus task force. This guy is really shoving it in his face now.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, who's the media going to cover? They're going to cover Joe Biden elect.
Yep. Exactly.
So people will miss the entire statement of Trump. And that's kind of the most scariest bit, especially if, it's a scary bit for the Democrats in general, because they're being so overt with how they're consolidating their power. Even their Democratic voters are going to see the cracks in the whole Joe Biden thing, and they might be surprised on how worse a Democrat can be when they turn code.
Yeah, well, because that always happens. They always turn on the groups that got you in is the first groups they turn on, right? I mean, it's proven throughout history. We'll use you useful idiots, and then once we'll get power, well, guess what? You're going bye-bye. Except they think they're going to put all the Trump supporters and enablers into re-education camps. That should be interesting.
That shouldn't be interesting. That should be frightening.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
China has re-education camps,
yep.
And they are not nice. And they're going to install those. China is the expert on that.
That could tip us into a civil war if people start disappearing to this re-education system.
Well, an uprising or a civil disobedience for sure, but an open revolt to a civil war, no. Because that's the main problem. People always think, because I am against it. Well, I don't see you in that protest over there. I see you here behind the computer. And like you, 80% of the other people are also behind the computer or behind the TV.
I live too far away from the protests. I live too far away from the protests. There's no protests out here ever.
Yeah, but hold on. What stops you from organizing a protest in your area?
We've had them. I've gone to a couple. But it's usually just 20 people. Around here, people are like, it's hard to describe. They're like not interested in attending.
They're complacent. Someone else is protesting for me. We have the same issues over here in the Netherlands. I mean, the Netherlands is not bigger than the New York State, and there's 20 million of us, but only, if we're lucky, 5,000, 10,000 people will actually protest.
In our area, when we had Tea Party rallies or whatever, the most we ever got was 300. And you're talking about 60, 70,000 people in the county, and you got 300 people show up. It's like, okay,
And with that, that's the main problem. Because by the time the other people start to rise up, it's already too late.
Yep. Exactly.
And the ways to clamp down on them is already put in place. So anyone who then tries to do anything immediately find themselves behind a bar, re-education camp, fined into oblivion, or being ostracized by the media and the public.
Yep, until you have no job, can't feed your family, losing your house, you lost everything. Yep, that's going to happen, and it's going to be interesting. So, what do you think are the odds of Trump actually winning and being inaugurated the 20th of January?
Well, Trump winning is really, if they don't have shit in order before December, I don't see it happening at all.
It's got to be before December. I think it should be sooner than that, but they're talking a couple weeks. So you're looking at December, by December 8th.
Yeah, they have to have shit in order by then, because the Electoral College will appoint Biden otherwise.
Right. I agree with Boca Bradley. I said 50-50. A lot of people got upset by that, but right now it's 50-50 until we get to what Rudy Giuliani and the legal team, Sidney Powell, have. Right now, you got to say the odds are half and half. He might make it, he might not.
The main problem is the Trump campaign had to scramble to get everything in order, while Biden is already promoting himself and celebrating. And as I've said, that's a double-edged blade, because either Biden is going to burn the DNC, or he's going to save the DNC. Same thing with Trump. Either he's going to save the GOP or he's going to burn the GOP. Because when either side wins, the DNC will self-disintegrate. But if Trump loses, the Democrats are going to butcher the GOP.
Yep. They've already said as much. They're going to burn it down.
Yeah. And that's the main problem. It's now a do-or-die scenario, and I don't like do-or-die scenarios, because when either side wins, you're stuck with a despot, because there's no opposition anymore.
Yep.
And then you got to be lucky you have the right despot.
Yes. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting 2 weeks, that's for sure. In my opinion, a long time to wait, but we'll see within the next week or two if something happens. Although time seems to be flying by with new revelations every day, so it's just sad that it had to come to this. And if they do prevail, it's going to show most of America, not 25% of America, they'll just vehemently disagree no matter what you tell them. But it'll show most of America that we had a huge problem here. That voting wasn't really all you thought it was. And if it's proven, it's going to be horrifying for people.
If it's proven, the American people have to go pay extremely attention on the replacement of it.
Yes.
Because the replacement could be even worse.
I mean,
that's my warning for that. Because fine, election fraud is a thing. Pay attention to how the solution comes.
The most damning revelation is that our votes go overseas to be counted. I just blown, and the company that owns the software is Venezuelan and Cuban. I mean, wow. That just blew me away today. Apparently they knew it all along. But there's a reason why the CIA, FBI, and the other 17 agencies ignored it. They were using it in other countries, apparently, to set up outcomes that they wanted, right? You might be on mute, Victor.
Sorry. The main problem is, if we knew how the government operated, we wouldn't need our government.
Exactly.
That's the biggest irony, because besides your local official, you really don't need any more government beyond that.
No, you don't. And I'll say it again. I've said it before. It's our own fault. Americans became complacent with the way things were for decades and just we're in this mess because we screwed it up too. Not just the politicians. We weren't paying attention any longer.
You can say that from Kennedy up to Bill Clinton for sure, but the Bush administration, you guys have no blame in that, because that one, whether it's an orchestrated terrorist attack or not, that pretty much blindsided everyone, and everything that happened after that. Sorry, but you guys were still recoiling from a tragedy.
Yeah. Well, we got ourselves into the Patriot Act. We got ourselves into, we allowed things to happen that were not constitutional. We knew it, and just let it happen. And the Patriot Act is what they used to spy on Trump, which is, oh man, it just boggles your mind. You give government any tool like that, you're headed for a nightmare eventually. Well,
yeah, but it's, ever since the 9/11 thing, we suddenly also have a secret agency, which was news to us as well.
Oh, another great discussion. I just threw 50 lemons in there. Thank you, co-host Victor, for Victor and Phil on Thursday. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We went over a lot of stuff. Very good conversation, I think.
Oh, yes, for sure.
All right, guys, don't forget about our 500 D Live contest so I can give away this large child's JJ Stoner midget T-shirt finally that's been sitting in the studio forever before moths started eating it. And I'll give you a shirt from the Teespring store, the Winning TV store on Teespring. A Winning TV shirt, a Speakeasy shirt, and I'm not going to say and a a Promises Kept shirt with Doc Martin on one side, myself on the other, facing inward. So, guys, thank you. And don't forget to check out Victor on the Victor Show. Lots of interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'll be doing another show 2 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So.
Awesome. What are you doing this week?
Well, I'm still compiling the whole Dutch Santa thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that one, but I'll have something fun as a replacement. If I can't make that one, because that's getting more convoluted as the time passes.
And it's always good to see something other than politics all the time, or do something other than politics all the time. So you got to clear out your brain every once in a while.
That's for sure.
Well, thank you, guys. We'll see you. Oh, did I release the chest yet? Or no? I thought I did.
No, you haven't.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, no, it pops.
Here we go. All right, guys, we'll see you next Thursday with Victor. I'll be on Tuesday to depress you some more. Maybe have some good news. We'll see. Don't forget Saturday night with Doc Martin at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and then 9 o'clock is the Speakeasy, where anyone can join in. We're going to open it up this weekend for anyone to jump in Discord and tell us what you think. Even if we don't like it, we'll let you tell us what you think.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
Thank you for the Thank you for the ice cream, Boca Bradley. I haven't eaten dinner, so I'm getting tired and hungry. Good night, everybody.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
you a farmer for coins when you have a heavy bag?
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
You